Welcome to 3.7's Math Moment. Today students learned how to compare fractions and also how to add and subtract fractions with denominators that are not the same. This is a review from 5th grade. So we learned last year in 5th grade how to compare and also how to add and subtract fractions. So this should be slightly easier for your student this year because it should be a review. So let's look at the first example. It says 6/7 and 11/12. Remember, whenever I see a big circle in between two fractions, two decimals, two numbers, they're usually wanting me to say which one is greater than, less than, or equal to the other number. So we're going to go ahead and use the butterfly method to solve this problem. And with the butterfly method, I just rewrite my two fractions and draw what we call butterfly wings around one numerator and the opposite denominator. And do that to the other side as well. And then you just multiply together what's in the wings. So 6 times 12. I always encourage the student, if they don't know the fact off the top of their head, to pull it off to the side and try it on their own. 6 times 12 is 72. 7 times 11, I use my doubles trick. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 1 is 7. Anything times 11 is just double that number when we're working with single digits. Alright, so I've got 6 times 12 is 72, 7 times 11 is 77, and then I look at which number is larger. Well, 77 is larger, and it is closer to the fraction 11/12, so it's on top. So that means automatically, using that method, I can find that 11/12 is the larger fraction. Okay, students can also use estimation to kind of help them with that, and we talked a lot about equivalent fractions today also. So we could have found an equivalent denominator and decided which one was bigger based off of equivalency, but this is a quick method that the students do enjoy to use. The next example says 1/5 plus 4/15. So we know that anytime we are adding or subtracting fractions, we have to make the denominators the same before we can add or subtract. So right now our denominators are not the same, so we're going to have to use a strategy to make them the same. One strategy that I like to encourage students to look for is look for the shortcut method. Alright, the shortcut method means the denominator that's smaller, is there something I can do to it with multiplication to make it equal to the bigger denominator? If so, I don't have to change the second denominator, and I get to leave it alone. It's a shortcut because then I don't have to do anything to the other denominator. And in this case, is there something with multiplication that I could do to a 5 to make it a 15? Yes, I could take 5 times 3 to get me 15. Anything I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. Now I'm going to rewrite these fractions over here. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. This is the shortcut way because I do not have to change 4/15ths. I've already made this one into 15, and now it matches the other 15, so I do not have to change that fraction. Now that the denominators are the same, they get to stay the same, and I just add the tops. 3 plus 4 gives me 7 for a final answer of 7/15. Another way to find common denominators is to list out multiples and to find the smallest one they have in common. So in counting by fives, I get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and I could keep going. Counting by 15s, 15, 30, 45, 60, and I could again keep going. But what I want to look for is the smallest one that they have in common, and again, I see that it's 15. So this truly is a shortcut problem because I wouldn't have to change that 15 even if I use the other method of finding a least common multiple. Alright, we're going to take a look next at looking at how to work with decimals. So this is the second part of lesson 3.7's Math Moment. Okay, today the students learned about equivalent fractions and decimals, and also how to compare fractions and decimals, and add and subtract fractions and decimals. So in the segment before, I talked all about fractions, how to compare and add and subtract, and today I'm going to review, right now I'm going to review how to do that with decimals. So the first example, again, remember that this circle always wants us to compare, which is larger, smaller, or equal to. So in order to compare decimals, this is a review from 5th grade, but in order to do that, I'm going to use a strategy that I like to encourage students to use, which is where I draw my decimals first and I line them up first. All right, and then I just rewrite the numbers exactly how I see them. 12 in front, 45 in back, 1 in front, a 2, 4, 5 in back. All right, now I fill in with zeros any number that does not have a partner. So now that I have them all lined up and with a partner, every single number has a number either on top or bottom of it, I'm able to look at them and compare and say which one, or are they the same or different, and if they're different, which one is larger. So I'm going to start at the very largest place value at the far left of my number, and I look and I've got a 1 and 0. Those are obviously different. Which one is bigger? 1. So obviously this number is already bigger. I can tell right away. All right, and it's as easy as that. I see that the 2, the number that matches up with the top number, is going to be the bigger number, so I'm going to have this symbol facing that direction. All right, example 2 says, Sandy has 31 5/10 feet of ribbon. Carol has 4 26/100 less than Sandy. How much does Carol have? So, I know how much Sandy has, and I know that Carol has 4 26/100 less than that. So this is definitely a subtraction problem because of that word less than. So I'm going to line up my decimal points. Anytime that I'm adding or subtracting fractions or comparing, not fractions, excuse me, decimals, anytime I'm adding, subtracting, or comparing decimals, I always have to line up my decimal points. So I've got 31 5/10, 4 26/100. Again, I'm going to give every number a partner. If you notice, the 5 didn't have a 0 behind it at first, but I gave it 1 because there was a 6 in the hundreds place. So now everyone has a partner. I did the same thing on the front here. So now I can go ahead and subtract now that everyone has a partner. 0 minus 6 I cannot do, so I have to borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. I bring down my decimal point. 1 minus 4 I cannot do. 11 minus 4 is 7. 2 minus 0 is 2. So my final answer would be 27 24/100 feet of ribbon. If you have any other questions about comparing, adding, or subtracting fractions and decimals, make sure to see your math teacher.